Do you wish that all things wealth and finance were much easier to understand and not presented by a bunch of beige cardigan-wearing geeks? Welcome to the Clever Investor Podcast, where we're dishing up the easiest to understand finance program served in bite-sized chunks, so your brain will thank you as your knowledge grows. Hosted by the brilliant Owen Taylor, a multiple award-winning expert with a glorious knack for explaining the complex world of wealth in the simplest of ways.
Hey clever investors, and welcome to another show. Today we look at the great mysteries of the repayment frequency. So, congratulations, you bought that property. You've done all the hard work, your loan is approved, and you're now looking at the loan documents. Staring back at you from the pages of the mortgage are the repayment options, and they want to know how often you're going to pay them. What do you pick? Weekly? Fortnightly? Half monthly? Monthly? Minimum? Higher? Standard? You run from the room screaming. Now, I might have over-exaggerated some of that. Most home loans in Australia are quoted as a standard monthly repayment, and that is scheduled in as a default if you pick nothing else. But you could potentially save yourself some money if you alter the frequency of your repayments. Now, let's go back and have a look at the basics here. The biggest expense during the life of any mortgage is the interest bill on the repayments. The interest on the mortgage is calculated on a daily basis. So the simple maths here is, if you want to pay off a mortgage as soon as possible, you need to reduce the overall interest bill. And it's done by making extra repayments, higher than normal repayments or bulk payments. But I still actually haven't answered your question. What option do you pick? Well, sadly, there is no one-size-fits-all answer. And let's start with the easy one first off. If it's a fixed-rate home loan or an investment property, your repayments for the high majority of lenders, you're going to be stuck with monthly repayments. And this isn't at all a bad thing. It's a tax-effective debt on your investment property. So there's a bigger picture on why you might not want to pay off that loan soon, especially if you still have money owing on your home loan, that being a non-tax effective debt. So let's flick this thing over and look at this as if it is actually your home loan. As I just said, there's no tax offsets on home loans in Australia. So the main aim when you've got your home loan, your home mortgage, is to kill this off as soon as practically possible. And we can do that by reducing the overall interest bill. Now, again, some of the basics. It's pretty obvious here. There are 12 calendar months in a year. So if your repayments are set as monthly, you're going to make 12 payments during that year, whatever time of the month. It may be the beginning, the middle, or the end of the month. But there are 52 weeks in a year. Making half monthly repayments, you would make 24 payments within a calendar year. However, there are 26 fortnights within a calendar year. Yes, that's right. There's no voodoo magic going on here. It's quite simply because some months have more than 4 weeks. So if you're paying every true fortnight, you're going to make an extra repayment in some months. So by making a true fortnightly repayment, you're making extra repayments, and therefore the interest is being calculated on a lesser amount. Remember, as I said before, the key to paying off that mortgage earlier is reducing the interest bill. Now, you need to ask your lender or your lovely friendly broker how the lender actually calculates their fortnightly repayments. Sometimes what they do is take a monthly repayment and just divide it in half. And that's not necessarily wrong, but you just need to check to make sure that you're on the right page with them. If you change to weekly repayments, you're now making 52 repayments per year. And that can equate to almost an extra month's of repayment during the year. That's a very rough and loose figure. So if weekly is so brilliant, the question is, why don't we all just make weekly home loan repayments? Well, there's a practical side to it. Not all lenders allow weekly, so pretty much the option ends there. If your particular bank doesn't do weekly repayments, then the option's not there. But that doesn't mean you should go and refinance to somebody that does weekly repayments. Let's imagine that you're paid monthly. You now have to manage 4 to 5 repayments during that pay cycle, along with all the other bills and payments that you have. Like phone bills come in monthly generally, gas bills come in quarterly, your car repayments probably monthly, you've got school fees that come in ad hoc during the year, vet bills whenever the dog chews something and gets stuck in his throat. You've got your grocery bills, which are weekly and then probably enormous every month as you restock the cupboards. And then you've got your credit card bills and your car payments and all of these other things as well. So sometimes it's just not practical because it's too hard to try and manage and make sure you've got enough money in the bank so that the bank can actually take their repayments. If you're paid weekly, which is getting less and less common nowadays, that option may well work out fantastically for you. So a large part of repayment frequency is often the practical side of things. So let's say that you have made up your mind how you're going to make your repayments, what frequency you want. How do we actually then switch our repayments? Well, the first thing is to check if your lender offers that fortnightly, that weekly, that half-monthly repayment that you actually desire. Now, if you have a mortgage broker, well done. Call them. They're going to help you. They may even be able to supply you with the forms, and it depends a lot on the individual banks. Some of them allow the brokers to actually do the process for you. Some of them require that you get on the phone and they want to record your voice actually requesting all of this. If you're going to call your lender, or sometimes you might have to head into a branch. Now, obviously, if you have to head into a branch, make sure you've got your headphones with you and you can plug in your favorite financial podcast, the Clever Investor podcast, because you're going to be waiting in line for about 3.7 hours. If your repayments come via direct debit and that direct debit is coming from a bank which is not your particular lender's banks, you're definitely going to have to get on the phone and actually make the adjustments from both sides of things to make sure that you're not missing payments and the right amounts are going out. There is, of course, one simple way to avoid the decision around repayment frequency. You could look at using a mortgage offset account, and I'll explain that in another edition of the Clever Investor podcast. See you next week.
You have been listening to the Clever Investor podcast, proudly sponsored this week by Blue Wealth Property. Are you ready to start a new investment journey? Get in touch with the industry leaders, Blue Wealth Property. Blue Wealth have a proven track record in using research to identify growth markets, and Blue Wealth have supported thousands of Australians to buy the right property in the right market at the right time. Go to bluewealth.com.au.